This is Panasonic's top-spec consumer camcorder for 2013, the X920, which sells for about £700 to £750 here in the UK. It's equipped with 3 backside illuminated sensors, which give decent enough image quality even in poor light. Here the gain is switched up to maximum in a scene that's lit only by a street light, and it's not that bad. For fans of manual controls, there's a ring on the lens, a multi-purpose device that's switchable between focus, white balance, shutter and iris and gain by the use of a small toggle button on the side of the camcorder, or by pressing which one you want on the touch screen. The toggle is a bit fiddly when you're holding the camcorder. One oddity is that as soon as you toggle onto the shutter setting, the camcorder instantly goes into auto iris, that is, it sets its own exposure, even if you just set it manually. And that's just by selecting the shutter option, not by actually changing it. But it's easy to accidentally select the shutter option with the control ring, even if you don't mean to change it, so do watch out for it changing itself. If you toggle onto the iris setting last, though, you can set it to your preference, and you have the option of a histogram on screen to help with exposure metering should you want it, as well as a spot meter showing exposure in percentage terms in a spot in the middle of the screen. The ring has a very smooth, nicely accurate action to it. It's very easy to use when focusing, especially when coupled with the focus assist or the peaking feature. This highlights in blue those bits of the image that are sharp. The only slight disappointment is that the camcorder doesn't simultaneously expand the image on screen to give you a closer view of exactly what you're focusing on. The rival camcorder from Canon, the HFG-25, does do this, and it is helpful. On top of the camcorder, there's a surprisingly usable zoom toggle. I mean, it's only a tiny fingertip-sized lever, but it has a smooth and controllable action which does enable you to get just so much zoom and no more, rather than it racing away as soon as you touch it. The zoom itself is a 12 times optical with a 25 times digital mode. Now, normally I'd avoid that like the plague, but the sensor on this camera actually has so many more pixels than are needed for HD video, it can actually crop into it to give you a digital zoom without losing resolution, so in fact it's quite good. The touch screen is a decent size and is reasonably usable, though you definitely have to press it rather than just brush your finger on the icons. Down on the left-hand side you can bring up a column of controls by pressing the button on the bottom left, and then there are slightly awkward left and right buttons at the bottom which swipe through a series of options to be displayed in that column. For example, one column shows the focus, shutter, exposure controls, another shows the stabilization options, and so on. There's also a quick menu of useful shortcuts, but you still have to scroll to a column menu to get to the quick menu, so it's not really that quick at all. So all the options are there for manual control, but fiddling with the touchscreen is slightly irritating, and you know, if Panasonic added just 2 or 3 customizable assignable buttons on the camcorder body, that would be an excellent step forward. One of the camcorder's proudest boasts is its 5-axis stabilization system that will help to counteract any wobbling in the shot as you hand hold it. It works really well, both while walking and on a high zoom, and is, frankly, a bit of a miracle compared with what was on offer only a few years ago. Annoyingly, the batteries on the X920 are not the same as ones from a few years ago. Despite having the same voltage and same power capability, the plastic moulding is ever so slightly different, so if you have older batteries, they may not fit, and you may have to invest in new ones. That's a nice little earner for Panasonic. Other annoying issues with the camcorder are that the SD memory card slot is underneath, so as soon as you mount the camcorder onto a tripod plate, you can't change the card without removing the plate. Another minor gripe is that the battery can't be released without opening the screen to get to the latch. Now, like many of Panasonic's camcorders, this one boasts Wi-Fi capabilities, including remote setup and monitoring from a tablet or smartphone, and even live internet streaming, although the camcorder steadfastly refuses to connect to our in-house Wi-Fi, despite entering all the details manually and very painstakingly. And if you do manage to make it work, for live streaming you don't connect directly to Ustream, but you have to activate an account with Panasonic, and we really don't see why you should be tied into Panasonic once you've bought the camcorder. Picture quality is good, especially in the highest quality mode, which is 28 megabits per second, 1080 at 50p, or 60 if you're in one of those countries. Files are stored in the AVCHD format as .mts files, and they're importable directly into any decent editor like Sony Vegas, Premiere, Edius and so on, though you will need a computer with lots of horsepower in order to play them back without stuttering. Now that's just due to the H.264 codec which AVCHD uses. It's not the camcorder's fault. Sound recording comes from a 5.1 surround microphone on the top next to the lens ring. Now its position means it could pick up some handling noise from your fingers on top of the camcorder, but Panasonic have also included a bolt-on adapter that slots into the side of the camcorder, giving you a cold shoe into which you could then put a proper microphone and connect it to the 3.5mm jack on the side. There's a 3.5mm headphone socket too, so you can check what you're recording and you can adjust the levels manually. Other niceties include zebra patterns, which show what parts of the image are about to be overexposed. There's a rather clever level gauge to help you keep the camcorder straight, and it will even automatically correct for very slight tilting, so you should have no more diagonal horizons in your shots. And hidden away in the so-called creative menu is a time-lapse function which could be fun. Apart from the fiddliness of the on-screen icons and the awkward Wi-Fi setup, the only other problem with this unit is the way Panasonic have just pretty much thrown all the information icons onto the screen with no apparent regard for aesthetics, or that you'll want to see through them to watch what you're filming. Everyone else sticks the icons around the sides of the screen, but Panasonic seem to have just thrown them at it and stuck them anywhere, so it does get rather cluttered. Overall, though, this is a camcorder whose image could pass muster for professional broadcast. Albeit the camcorder lacks professional XLR audio inputs, you could add those with a BeachTech adapter or similar. Given its price, TubeShooter has no hesitation in recommending the Panasonic X920 as a top-flight consumer and even semi-pro camcorder.